hand. $1 million, and none of you geniuses can solve it. The words cut through the champagne-soaked air of Manhattan's most exclusive charity gala like a blade. 300 of the world's brightest minds, Nobel laureates, tech moguls, hedge fund kings, stood frozen in their designer gowns and $1,000 tuxedos, staring at Victoria Sterling as her voice echoed through the crystal ballroom. Victoria Sterling, the pharmaceutical heiress whose fortune could buy small countries, stood beneath the chandelier with a knowing smile playing at her lips. The diamonds around her neck caught the light as she surveyed the room of stunned faces. Surely someone here can earn themselves a cool million tonight. In the back corner, near the service entrance where the hired help moved like shadows, Amara Johnson carefully balanced a silver tray of champagne flutes. Her black uniform was pristine, her movements invisible to the glittering crowd. She'd been serving at these events for 3 years, watching the wealthy play their games while she worked double shifts to put her daughter through college. During her 15-minute break earlier, she'd been in the staff room solving the Sunday Times crossword puzzle in ink, a habit that had earned her odd looks from other servers who couldn't understand why she tortured herself with impossible word games. But Amara had always found peace in puzzles, in the elegant way complex problems could have surprisingly simple solutions. But tonight was different. Tonight her ears were fixed on Victoria's words, and what she heard there would change everything. If you're feeling this moment already, hit like and subscribe. There's more where this came from. Dr. Harrison Webb, Harvard's youngest department head, stepped forward first, his chest puffed with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no in his life. The crowd parted like the Red Sea, smartphones already recording what they assumed would be their entertainment for the evening. "Mrs. Sterling, with all due respect," he announced, his voice carrying the authority of decades in academia, "riddles are parlor games. Perhaps we could discuss more substantial intellectual challenges?" Victoria's smile didn't waver. "Dr. Webb, your Nobel Prize speaks for itself. But can you solve it?" Webb's face flushed red as murmurs rippled through the crowd. The live stream Victoria had arranged was already climbing toward 500,000 viewers, comments flooding in. "Harvard can't handle it? These rich people are idiots. Where's the genius we were promised?" Victoria raised her voice, each word crystal clear in the hushed ballroom. "Listen carefully. I will say this only once. I am not seen, though I am always there. I make the strong weak, the brave filled with fear. I turn kings into beggars, the rich into poor, yet I give to the humble what they're looking for. I'm found in a question, but not in reply. I'm the reason that truth can sometimes be lie. What am I?" The silence that followed was deafening. Minutes passed as Webb's confident posture began to sag, his mind racing through complex philosophical frameworks, literary references, ancient riddle traditions. I would need to research historical precedents. Riddles of this nature require extensive analysis of linguistic patterns, cultural context." "Next," Victoria interrupted, her voice silk over steel. But the night's biggest shock was still hidden in the shadows, listening. The crowd watched with the hunger of Romans at the Colosseum as genius after genius stepped forward and failed. Tech billionaire Marcus Chen, whose AI algorithms had revolutionized 3 industries, began spouting theories about algorithmic logic patterns and computational thinking. Investment queen Sarah Goldman, who could calculate market volatilities in her sleep, found herself lost in abstract philosophical concepts. Each failure sent a ripple of nervous laughter through the room. The live stream viewer count climbed past 1 million, trending hashtags exploding across social media. $, million-dollar riddle, $, genius or fraud, live failure. "This is embarrassing," someone commented live. "America's elite can't solve basic riddles." "Basic riddle? You try it," came the reply. "Where are the real philosophers? This is painful to watch." Amara watched from the shadows as the atmosphere shifted from playful competition to something darker. The wealthy elite, so accustomed to having all the answers, began to turn on each other with subtle cruelty. "Perhaps Dr. Webb's reputation is more marketing than intellect," someone whispered loud enough to carry. "I heard Chen's last 3 ventures actually failed before the media spin," came another voice. But none of them knew that the answer was standing right behind them, invisible in plain sight. "What's the matter, people?" Victoria's voice rose above the nervous chatter. "I thought this room contained the most brilliant minds of our generation." The comments section had become a battlefield. International viewers were expressing shock that America's elite were failing so spectacularly. This is what we're supposed to respect? My grandmother could solve this. Someone call a real university! Amara felt the champagne in her tray trembling as recognition flooded through her. She knew this riddle. Not the specific words, but the elegant truth hidden within them. Something she'd encountered in her philosophy studies 15 years ago, before life had forced her to choose between her graduate degree in cognitive science and keeping food on the table for her infant daughter. Her hand tightened on the silver tray as memories flooded back. Late nights in the university library, the thrill of logical discovery, the professor who'd told her she had remarkable intuition for complex reasoning patterns. The same professor who'd written her recommendation letters that had gone nowhere when scholarships dried up and bills piled high. She could solve this, right now, in front of everyone. But would they even listen to someone like her? Dr. Webb had taken charge, his wounded ego driving him to become increasingly aggressive. This is a waste of time, Victoria. These kinds of abstract problems require months of collaborative research, not party tricks. Dr. Webb, Victoria replied coolly. Are you admitting defeat? I'm admitting reality, he snapped. Serious intellectual work requires proper credentials and peer review, not entertainment. The live stream had exploded past 2 million viewers. Someone had started a live poll. Will anyone solve it? The results were brutal. 78% voted no way with comments like, these people are all hype, and money can't buy brains. But Dr. Patricia Morrison, the renowned physicist who'd broken more glass ceilings than anyone could count, made one last desperate attempt. She paced the floor, muttering about semantic structures, metaphorical frameworks, and cognitive biases. 20 minutes passed. The room grew restless. Webb began pacing like a caged animal. I need more time, Morrison said finally, stepping back in defeat. Of course you do, Webb muttered loud enough for the microphones to catch. This is exactly why these public displays are ridiculous. Real intellectual work isn't a circus act. Little did he know the greatest mind in the room was about to prove him spectacularly wrong. Victoria Sterling tapped her champagne flute with a diamond-encrusted nail, the crystal chime cutting through the nervous chatter. The sound was sharp, final, like a judge's gavel. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced, her voice carrying easily through the ballroom, it seems we have our answer. The brilliant minds of our generation, the ones who claim to be building tomorrow, can't solve a simple riddle. The live stream had broken 3 million viewers. $1 Million Fail was trending worldwide. Comments poured in from philosophers, students, and curious viewers. This is humiliating for America. Are these really our best and brightest? Someone should call a real university. Perhaps, Victoria continued, her smile turning predatory. We've been giving ourselves too much credit. Perhaps the real intelligence in this room has been overlooked. Dr. Webb's face had gone from red to purple. Now see here, Victoria. This is hardly fair. Complex riddles require time, resources, interdisciplinary consultation. Dr. Webb, Victoria interrupted. You've had 45 minutes. The riddle isn't changing. Either you can solve it or you can't. The silence that followed was suffocating. But in that silence, something extraordinary was about to happen. Amara's hand began to tremble as she set down her silver tray on a nearby table. The sound was soft, barely audible, but in the suffocating silence of the ballroom, it might as well have been a gunshot. She thought of her grandmother, who'd cleaned houses for 70 years and still found time to help Amara with her school essays. She thought of her mother, who'd worked 3 jobs to keep them housed and fed, who'd saved every penny so Amara could be the first in their family to go to college. She thought of Maya, brilliant and curious, studying computer science at Stanford. Maya, who deserved to see that brilliance came in all colors, all backgrounds, all uniforms. The riddle wasn't just words. It was a statement, a challenge, a test not just of intelligence, but of courage. Would she stay invisible forever? Or would she finally claim her space? Excuse me? The words left Amara's lips before she could stop them. Quiet, but clear. 2 words that seemed to echo in the vast ballroom like a stone dropped in still water. The room was about to witness something unprecedented. The reaction was immediate and predictable. A ripple of confusion, then dismissal. Who had spoken? Surely not. No, impossible. Dr. Webb's head swiveled like a predator sensing movement. His eyes found Amara standing beside her abandoned tray. her dark skin seeming to absorb the chandelier light, her uniform marking her as clearly as a scarlet letter. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "But the staff really shouldn't be interrupting." "I said, excuse me?" Amara's voice was stronger now, cutting through Webb's dismissal like a blade. "I believe I can solve your riddle." The livestream comments exploded in real time. "Did the maid just say she can solve it? This has to be a joke. Plot twist incoming. Is this staged?" The silence that followed was different from before. This wasn't the quiet of intellectual humiliation. This was the silence of a world turning upside down. Victoria Sterling's perfectly sculpted eyebrow arched upward. For the first time all evening, her composure cracked just slightly. No one could have predicted what happened next. The laughter started slowly, like the first drops of rain before a storm. Dr. Webb's chuckle was joined by Sarah Goldman's barely concealed snort, then Marcus Chen's head shake of disbelief. "Oh, this is rich," Webb muttered, loud enough for the microphones to catch. "The help thinks she can solve complex riddles." The livestream was going insane, 4 million viewers and climbing. Black Maid Riddle started trending alongside Dash Elite failure. International news outlets were picking up the stream. But Amara's voice cut through the mockery like a sword through silk. "It's not as complex as you think it is. That's why you couldn't solve it." The laughter died like a candle flame in a hurricane. Victoria Sterling's eyes narrowed, studying Amara with the intensity of a scientist examining a new species. "What did you just say?" "Your riddle," Amara repeated, stepping slightly forward, away from the safety of the shadows. "It's not what everyone's been assuming. The answer is something more direct, something I've heard before." The room was about to witness the impossible. Dr. Webb's face had gone from purple to ashen gray. His academic pride couldn't handle being corrected by someone he'd dismissed as the help. That's impossible," he sputtered. "You can't just... How would you even recognize complex rhetorical structures? These are graduate-level concepts." The livestream comments were a blur of disbelief and excitement. "She knows what she's talking about. This is getting interesting. Plot twist of the century. Is she for real?" "The same way you do, Doctor." "Webb," Amara replied steadily. "I studied logic and reasoning." "Where?" The question came from Dr. Morrison, and unlike Webb's sneering tone, hers carried genuine curiosity. "MIT," Amara replied simply. "Full scholarship. I was working on my graduate degree in cognitive science when—" She paused, glancing around the room of faces that ranged from skeptical to openly hostile. "When life happened." Webb couldn't contain his scorn. "MIT? You? He gestured at her uniform with barely concealed disgust. "A black woman?" Amara finished quietly. "Yes, Doctor. Webb. We do sometimes get educated." The confrontation was about to explode. Webb's face twisted with the kind of rage that comes from having your worldview shattered in public. "This is absurd. I don't care what sob story you're peddling. You're a waitress. You serve drinks. You don't solve complex intellectual problems." The live stream was in chaos. 5 million viewers watching the ugly truth of elitism play out in real time. Comments flooded in. "He's showing his true colors. This is disgusting. Let her try. Racist much?" Victoria Sterling stepped forward, her voice cutting through Webb's rant. "Doctor, Webb, perhaps you should step back." "Step back?" Webb's voice cracked with indignation. "I'm not going to stand here and pretend that someone who clears tables has the intellectual sophistication to what?" Amara's voice was quiet, but it carried absolute authority. "To think? To learn? To see patterns that you missed?" She turned to face the room, her chin raised despite the hostile stares. "I've been invisible to you for 3 years. Serving your drinks, clearing your plates, listening to your conversations about innovation and disruption and finding the next big thing, all while you looked right through me." The moment of truth was finally here. Victoria Sterling moved to the center of the room, her expression unreadable. "Well then," she said, her voice cutting through the chaos like a conductor's baton. "By all means, tell us the answer." The crowd parted reluctantly, all eyes tracking Amara's every movement. It felt like walking through a gauntlet. 300 pairs of eyes watching her, 5 million more through their screens, all of them waiting for her to fail. Webb positioned himself near the front, his arms crossed, his expression saying everything about what he expected to happen. "This is going to be humiliating," he muttered to Goldman. "For her, I mean. When she inevitably fails, maybe she'll learn to stay in her lane." The live stream comments were split between excitement and skepticism. "This is about to be epic. She's gonna crash and burn. Prove them wrong. Don't let her embarrass herself." Amara stood in the center of the ballroom, the riddle echoing in her mind like a song she'd always known. This was her moment. Everything depended on what happened next. "Before I give you the answer," Amara said, turning to face the crowd, "I want to repeat the riddle so everyone can hear it clearly." Her voice carried through the hushed ballroom as she recited Victoria's words perfectly. "I am not seen, though I am always there. I make the strong weak, the brave filled with fear. I turn kings into beggars, the rich into poor, yet I give to the humble what they're looking for. I'm found in a question, but not in reply. I'm the reason that truth can sometimes be lie." "What am I?" Webb snorted audibly. "Oh, please, you're going to lecture us about riddle interpretation? I'm a thinker," Amara interrupted, her voice carrying absolute certainty. "Who happens to work as a server to pay my bills?" The distinction hung in the air like a challenge. She turned back to the crowd, her voice clear. The livestream had broken 6 million viewers. Riddle Has No Color was trending globally. News outlets worldwide were carrying the stream live. What happened next would go down in history. "The answer," Amara said, her voice steady despite the weight of millions of gazes on her, "is doubt." The word dropped into the silence like a stone into still water, sending ripples through the ballroom and across the digital world. For one crystalline moment, time seemed suspended. A champagne flute slipped from someone's nerveless fingers, shattering against the marble floor with a sound like breaking expectations. Camera flashes erupted like lightning, smartphones pivoting to capture every angle of this impossible scene. Fingers froze mid-type over keyboards and phone screens, live-stream viewers paralyzed between disbelief and recognition. Even the servers in the shadows had stopped moving, silver trays forgotten in their hands. Dr. Webb's face went through a transformation visible to millions, his smug confidence cracking like ice under spring sun, his shoulders sagging as if the weight of his arrogance had finally become too much to bear. His mouth opened, closed, opened again, no sound emerging as his worldview crumbled in real time. Then the live-stream chat exploded back to life, a waterfall of text moving too fast to read, thousands of messages per second cascading down screens around the globe. The word hung in the air like a revelation. Doubt is not seen, but it's always there in our minds. It makes the strong feel weak, the brave feel afraid. It turns kings into beggars by making them question their worth, and the rich into poor by making them feel they never have enough. Webb's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. This wasn't supposed to be happening. This couldn't be happening. The live stream comments were exploding. "She's actually doing it!" "That makes perfect sense." "Webb's face is priceless. History in the making." Amara continued, her voice growing stronger with each word. "Doubt gives to the humble what they're looking for. It gives them questions, the desire to learn and grow. It's found in every question we ask, but never in the reply we give. And doubt is the reason that truth can sometimes be a lie. Because when we doubt ourselves, we can't trust what we know to be true." The impossible was becoming inevitable. Dr. Morrison had moved closer, her eyes wide with wonder. Unlike the hostile stares of her colleagues, her expression showed genuine fascination. "Of course," Morrison murmured, her voice filled with amazement. "It's so elegant, so simple. Why didn't we see it?" "Because you were looking for something complicated," Amara replied. "But the most profound truths are often the simplest ones. You all know doubt intimately. It's what drives your research, your innovation, your constant need to prove yourselves. But you've forgotten that doubt isn't your enemy. It's your teacher." Webb pushed forward, his academic pride driving him to desperation. "This is a fraud. She's probably looked this up online. There's no way someone of her background could possibly understand complex philosophical concepts." The live stream erupted, 7 million viewers witnessing raw prejudice in real time. "He said it. His true colors. Background, WTF, this is sickening." But Amara didn't even pause. "Dr. Webb, my background includes studying some of the most challenging philosophical works ever written. What's your background in dismissing people based on their appearance?" The room was about to witness the ultimate reversal. Webb's face cycled through emotions like a broken traffic light, red with rage, white with shock, purple with humiliation. The live stream comments were merciless. Webb is imploding. Get wrecked, Professor. She's destroying him. Victoria Sterling watched with fascination as the room's power dynamics shifted in real time. The live stream had become a global phenomenon. 8 million viewers, trending in 12 countries, news outlets scrambling to understand what they were witnessing. Webb made one last, desperate attempt to salvage his dignity. Even if you stumbled onto the right answer, true intellectual understanding requires... Requires what, Doctor? Webb? Amara's voice cut through his stammering. Requires the right skin color, the right social class, the right uniform? The final blow was coming. The silence that followed was devastating. Webb's mouth opened and closed, but no words came. Around the room, faces reflected the uncomfortable recognition of their own biases laid bare. The live stream comments were unanimous in their condemnation. Webb is done. Career over. How do you come back from this? Justice is beautiful. Amara looked around the room, her voice carrying to every corner and to millions of viewers worldwide. I kept learning, she said. Philosophy books from the library, online courses during my breaks, podcasts I'd listen to while working. Wisdom doesn't stop being beautiful just because you can't afford to study it full time. She paused, letting her words sink in. And doubt, the answer to your riddle, doubt taught me that the most important questions aren't always asked by the people with the most degrees. Sometimes they're asked by the people who have been made to feel invisible. The moment of truth had arrived. The live stream exploded. 9 million viewers witnessing history. Comments flooded in from philosophers, students, and thinkers worldwide. Answer confirmed. Absolutely brilliant. Philosophical genius. This changed how I think. Dr. Morrison stepped forward, her voice carrying in the absolute silence. Your interpretation isn't just correct. It's profound. It reveals layers of meaning that none of us saw. You didn't just solve the riddle. You illuminated why we couldn't. Webb stumbled forward, his earlier arrogance completely evaporated. His eyes, wide with disbelief, couldn't meet Amara's gaze. The answer was undeniable, perfect, brilliant, and it had come from the woman he'd dismissed as the help. Victoria Sterling stood motionless for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then slowly she began to clap. The sound echoed through the ballroom like gunshots. One person clapping in a room of 300 stunned faces. Ladies and gentlemen, Victoria's voice carried across the silent ballroom, her slow applause the only sound. I present to you the winner of tonight's challenge. She reached into her evening bag and withdrew a check, already prepared. $1 million made out to Amara Johnson. The live stream was in complete chaos. 10 million viewers trending globally, news outlets around the world picking up the story. Black Maid genius dominated social media. But Victoria wasn't finished. She walked toward Amara, her heels clicking against the marble, each step deliberate and purposeful. You see, I didn't create this challenge to find the smartest person in the room. I created it to prove a point about who we listen to and who we dismiss. The final twist was coming. I've been watching you, Amara Johnson, Victoria continued, her voice carrying to every corner of the room and to millions watching online. For 3 years, I've watched you work these events. I've seen how you move through this room like a ghost, how these brilliant minds treat you like furniture, and I've done my research. Amara's heart stopped. Research? MIT records, your undergraduate thesis on cognitive patterns, your graduate work before you left, the freelance consulting projects you've done under various pseudonyms, the strategic thinking frameworks you've developed that 3 companies in this room have built their fortunes on without ever knowing your name. The revelation hit the room like a tsunami. The live stream comments exploded. Plot twist! She's been hiding in plain sight. This is incredible. They built fortunes on her ideas. Sarah Goldman was frantically typing on her phone. Marcus Chen had gone pale as death. Around the room, executives were having uncomfortable realizations about their hiring practices. But the night's biggest revelation was still to come. Victoria's voice rose above the chaos. You want to know the truth? The truth is that brilliance comes in all colors, all backgrounds, all economic circumstances. The truth is that we've created a system that wastes talent because we're too arrogant to see it when it doesn't come wrapped in an Ivy League bow and a trust fund. Webb looked like he was about to be sick. His entire worldview, his sense of intellectual superiority, lay in ruins around him. You planned this, he whispered. I plan to offer $1 million to whoever could solve my riddle, Victoria replied. I didn't plan who would solve it. But I hoped, God, how I hoped, that it would be someone who would shake this room to its very foundations. The live stream had broken all records. 15 million viewers, trending in 20 countries, number hidden genius becoming a rallying cry worldwide. Victoria turned back to Amara, her expression softer now. This is yours, fairly won, she said, handing over the check. But I'd like to offer you something else as well. The offer that would change everything. A position, full funding to complete your degree at any university you choose, and after that, a research position at Sterling Dynamics, heading up our new strategic thinking division, starting salary $300,000 a year. The offer hung in the air like a lifeline thrown to a drowning person. Amara stared at Victoria, then at the check in her hands, then at the room full of people who had dismissed her so completely just hours ago. Around the room, business cards and contact information were already being thrust forward. Universities, think tanks, consulting firms, everyone suddenly wanted the brilliant mind they'd ignored for years. But Webb wasn't finished. His humiliation had curdled into something uglier. "This is all theater," he shouted, his voice cracking with desperation. "A setup, some elaborate publicity stunt. There's no way someone like her could—" He never finished the sentence. Dr. Morrison stepped forward, her voice cutting through his rant like a blade. Someone like what, Harrison? Someone black? Someone who had to work for a living? Someone who didn't have daddy's connections to smooth their path? The final judgment was about to be delivered. Morrison's words hung in the air like an indictment. Webb's face crumpled as he realized his career, his reputation, his entire life's work was crashing down around him in real time, broadcast to millions. The live stream comments were merciless. Webb is done. Career suicide on live TV. This is what prejudice looks like. Justice served. Other voices began to join Morrison's. Not all of them. Some guests had already slipped out, too embarrassed to witness their worldview being dismantled. But enough voices offering apologies, expressing amazement, asking questions about Amara's intellectual background. "Ms. Johnson, Amara?" Morrison continued, her voice thick with emotion. "Your answer tonight was masterful. And we dismissed you because of your uniform, not your mind. I've spent 30 years fighting to be taken seriously as a woman in STEM, and tonight I realized I'd become part of the problem." Amara looked around the room, at the faces that had ignored her for 3 years, now looking at her with newfound respect and barely concealed hunger for her talent. But the real victory was still to come. As the chaos swirled around her, as job offers poured in and social media exploded with her story, Amara stood quietly thinking about Maya. Tomorrow she would call her daughter and tell her about tonight. She would tell her that brilliance comes in all forms, that intelligence doesn't require permission, and that sometimes the most important thing you can do is raise your hand and claim your space in the world. The live stream continued, now showing split screens of the ballroom chaos and social media reactions. Riddle Has No Color was trending worldwide. Universities were announcing diversity initiatives. Companies were scrambling to revise their hiring practices. But for Amara, standing in the eye of the hurricane she'd created, there was only one moment that mattered. Her phone buzzed against her hip, a text message that seemed to pierce through all the chaos around her. With trembling fingers, she pulled it from her uniform pocket and read the words from Maya, watching from her Stanford dorm room. "Mom, I'm crying. I'm so proud. You just changed the world. If this moment moved you too, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful true stories." Amara looked up from the screen at the transformed faces around her, no longer dismissive, no longer blind to her presence. The crystal chandelier above caught her tears as she smiled, finally visible in a room that had made her invisible for so long. And that was when she knew the real riddle she'd solved tonight. Sometimes, just sometimes, the most important riddle you can solve is the one that proves your own worth. The live stream continued, capturing this moment of quiet triumph amid the chaos. A black woman in a server's uniform, holding $1 million check and her daughter's words, proving that brilliance could not be contained by expectations or uniforms or the color of skin. 3 months later, the video had been viewed over 100 million times. Dr. Webb had quietly resigned from Harvard. Universities worldwide had launched initiatives to identify brilliant minds, regardless of economic circumstances. The number hidden genius movement had sparked conversations about talent and bias in every industry. But the moment that mattered most to Amara came in a phone call from a young black girl in Chicago who'd watched the live stream. "Ms. Johnson," the girl said, her voice trembling with excitement, "I love riddles and puzzles too. My teacher says I ask too many questions, but I've been reading philosophy books from the library. And after watching you last night, I'm not going to hide it anymore. I'm going to raise my hand." Amara closed her eyes, remembering the feeling of stepping forward in that ballroom, of claiming her space in a world that had tried to make her invisible. "Good," she said softly. "The world needs your questions. Don't let anyone tell you it doesn't." Because that's what real change looks like. Not the dramatic gesture on a stage, but the quiet moment when someone decides they deserve to be seen, to be heard, to claim their space in the world. Intelligence has no color, no class,